So I had a few technical difficulties with the stream. I don't know what happened, but I'm just going to move forward. So I'll just let that other little bit be its own thing. So let's go ahead and get started in painting. All right. So first, I've got my water here. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to actually draw. Now, in watercolor, you want to plan out, because you want to plan everything out because you can't paint over something. Watercolor is very transparent. So you need to really plan where everything's going to go first. So we do a lot of drawing, and in fact, sometimes half the class is drawing. Now, in this particular case, we're not going to be doing much drawing. We're just going to do a horizon line and the sun. That's it. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to pick where we want our horizon line. Notice that I'm in a landscape orientation because we are doing a landscape today. So with what I do when I choose where I want the horizon to go, I never put it right in the middle. Well, I can't say never. It's always possible to break the rules, but the rule is not to put it in the middle. The reason why is because that's boring, basically. It doesn't create any tension for the viewer, and we want to create some tension for the viewer. So what we're going to do, depending on whether most of what I have is interesting is in the forefront, like in the foreground, or most of what I have that is interesting is in the background. So let's say like there's a lot going on in the sky, like maybe clouds and a hot air balloon and, whatever, things going on in the sky, then we would want more sky showing. So we would put our horizon line lower than the middle, right? But in this particular case, we have more going on in the foreground. So we're going to take, so our middle is about here, and I'm going to pop this up just a little bit, not much, but like maybe about an inch. And we're just going to do a horizon line. Now the key to getting a pretty straight line, mine was a little crooked at the beginning there, but the key to getting a pretty straight line is instead of moving your wrist, you want to move your entire arm. In fact, I sometimes move my entire body with it. Okay, now very lightly, we are going to do our sun, which is going to be kind of low because it's setting. It's a sunset. So similar, if you want to do a circle, you just use your whole arm. Okay, that's it. You can put your pencil away. We're not doing any more pencil stuff. All right, so the first thing we're going to do, we're going to be using our large brush, our wash brush, and we are going to make, let's see, we're going to need yellow. Now with watercolors, these reconstitute, similar to the wells where they're dry and you just add water. Same thing with these. So like you can let these dry as long as they're not contaminated with other colors. You can let them dry and then just add water later. I've had watercolors that 20 years later, I added a little bit of water, they worked fine. So, all right, we're gonna actually put a little bit of phthalo crimson. So what that means, I don't want them to be contaminated, so that means I'm going to do all my color mixing here in the middle. I'm not going to mix my colors in my wells like I do with my acrylic. Okay, so the key to getting a really nice, good, watery color, we are going to first notice all those bubbles, those air bubbles coming up. So I'm just pressing my brush down at the bottom. Welcome back, Flex. Thank you for letting me know. So I'm pushing my brush down at the bottom, and that's just getting all those little air bubbles out. Okay, so I'm going to take this water, you can wipe the excess off so it doesn't drip, and I'm just going to wipe it on the edge of the well. I'm not even touching the paint. I'm going to pick up a little bit of water, wipe it at the edge of the well. Not even touching the paint. So if you look, see I've got a little pool of water in there. All right, I'm going to do the same thing with the yellow. It's getting a little pool going. Now, if you're using the well paints, these, you can do the exact same thing. You can just wipe right at the edge of the well. Just wipe right at the edge of that yellow so that your brush doesn't actually get any yellow on it. If you can see, there's like already like a little bit of water in there. You can see it's shiny. So you just don't want to get any paint on your brush yet. Just yet. We're not ready. Then what you do is you're going to agitate. Just right at the top part. You're still not touching the paint. You just start agitating it. And what that does is it just gets the color in there, but it doesn't make it too saturated, because the deal with watercolor is we want it to be transparent. Like, that's part of its charm, right? So we don't want it to be too thick. Otherwise you start having something called gouache, which is an opaque watercolor. Okay, I'm just rinsing off my brush, and then I'm going to agitate the yellow. Same deal. I'm just agitating and not touching the paint itself. And what we're doing is we're just looking for like a soupy mixture where we don't fully see the paint anymore. Like the red actually might still be a little bit too transparent, but that's okay because we're going to be mixing it. Oh, the yellow is good. I didn't mean to agitate it so much I created so many bubbles, but all right. So what I'm going to do is grab some of this color and put it in the middle. Now you could start a new well if you wanted, like if you were going to be using a lot of it, but watercolor goes a really long way. Okay, now I'm going to grab some of this red. I'm going to agitate it just a little bit more. I'm going to get a nice red-orange color. That is perfect. It's exactly what I want. Okay. Now, I'm going to add just a tiny bit more water to my yellow and agitate that a little bit, because we're going to be doing pure yellow right around the sun. So I'm going to come in and just paint pure yellow right around the outside of the sun. And in fact, you know what? I think my pencil's a little bit too dark. Hang on. I was doing it dark so you guys could see it, but what's going to end up happening is the yellow is not going to be dark enough to cover it. So it's just going to look really bright. So I'm going to erase my line. You can erase through watercolor, but the problem is that you might end up erasing some of the actual paper, which actually just happened a little bit. Okay, I'm not worried about this line because this line we're going to be doing a darker color. But I can still see the circle where my sun is. Like, it's very faint, but I can still see it. And that's all you really need. You just need to be able to see it. All right, so now let's pick up that yellow. And all I'm doing is just going right around that circle. Just picking up my color. Don't worry too much about the bottom because that's going to be covered by trees. All right, so we've got it covered. We're going to leave the sun white. Mine is not round. So I'm going to do something really quick. I'm going to take water with my smaller brush. And I'm just going to clean up and make it more circular. That's pretty good, actually. This is similar in acrylics. If you want to clean up watercolor, you just gotta take a clean brush and wipe at it. Okay, so the yellow is going to continue up. So we're going to take our yellow and just continue up in the sky. And I'm just going to let my yellow kind of be pervasive in the sky. It's just going to go everywhere. Right around here. I'm not even going all the way down to my horizon because it's going to be covered. All right. To me, it looks like I have a lot of yellow on here, but you guys can't actually see it that well because my lights are so bright. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit more. Right around the sun area. And of course, I accidentally You can also do this when it's dry. You just might have like a slight little tint, but like I said, watercolor reconstitutes. So if you accidentally go in a place, you can go back over it with water later and try to pull some of that up. Like I said, it doesn't work as well, but even if you don't catch it till later when it's dry, that's okay. All right. Now, what we're going to do, I'm going to actually paint some water in the sky. So I'm actually just painting with water. Now it's got a little bit of a yellow tint to it because I've been, I've been using yellow on my brush. But I'm just painting the sky with water. Then I'm going to pick up some of this orange and look how it spreads. And I'm just kind of going sort of haphazard. I'm not really trying. I'm letting it blend in with my yellow, but I'm not doing anything fancy. I'm just kind of going back and forth in a horizontal position. And what's happening is that water that I put on there first picks it up and moves it around. And this is the best thing about watercolor, is that the water does a lot of the work for you. I call it collaborating with the universe. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up a little bit of red, and I'm going to put some red straight on here, kind of towards the outside. If you want to mix in a little yellow, you can, just directly with it. You just mix on the canvas. I'm going to pick up a little bit of red over here for the right at the edge here. And if you don't like the way it's blending, you can always add a little bit more water. And the water will do the blending for you. Now notice my paper is actually kind of bending a little bit. All right. This is very difficult to see. Let me see if I move my light down a little bit. Lighting for a painting stream is really difficult. Let's see. There, you guys can see it a little bit better now. It's a little darker. Okay. Excuse me. All right. So there's a couple other things you can do with the sky if we want to keep playing with it. Like, so for example, in our, I'm going to actually use my smaller brush, but in our reference photo, there is quite a lot of bright color. So I'm going to pick up some more yellow right around the sun. I'm just going to do pure yellow. I'm going to be very careful since I keep accidentally going over my sun edges. Try not to do it this time. Again, I'm not really worrying about the bottom. I'm going to mix a little bit more of this orangey color. Oops, I didn't grab enough yellow. Now this is a little bit darker, so what I'm doing here is just making kind of cloud shapes. And again, if you want to blend things a little bit more, just add some water right at the edges where things are, and just kind of swish your brush back and forth, and that will help blend everything. It's like my edges here. By the way, everyone, you guys, thank you for joining my stream last night. I realized after going back and listening to it, I'm going to probably have to label that NSFW because some of the subject matter, I definitely don't want any of my kids watching that stream. They'll get life lessons that their parents might not want them to get. But I appreciate everybody hanging out with me, and we had a good time. We had a good time, just a very adult time. And Flex, I haven't listened to that music yet, but I did write it down. I had on the back of a card, I wrote down all the names. So that I can go and look. I like to listen to music I haven't heard of before. All right. I'm really wanting my edges to be considerably darker. I'm trying to bend my paper just a little bit. I don't want to bend it. I accidentally made a crease in it. I want it to be a more rounded bend. But you can do this. I just realized. But like, check out what's happening. As I tilt it, like the water's moving around. So you can do that too. There's all kinds of cool things you can do with watercolor. So I'm just adding more. As it dries, you can add a little bit more color. And it will actually just add to the previous color, making it darker. So I'm just playing with we're going to want to hang on to these colors too, because we're going to be using these in the water because we're going to have reflection. Now it's going to be, much lighter, so we're going to add a lot of water to it. But it's going to be these same colors. All right, I think that's good. I'm gonna leave my sky alone. Okay, So now what we're going to do, I actually left a little bit of a gap between where the water is. It's not much, but notice I didn't go all the way down. Like I said, we're going to be putting dark there, so you don't have to worry too much about it. But what we're going to do, we're going to actually turn our paper sideways. Now, we're going to do the yellow first. And I would like to water this down considerably. So I'm adding a lot of water to my well here. And then I'm going to paint. You know what? I want to use my big brush for this. I think it's going to be a lot easier. I'm going to paint big strokes back and forth. Just big horizontal strokes. Coming straight down from the sun. And we want these to be very light right now. I'll hold this up so you guys can see it. Let's see actually, I don't know if that's really much better, but anyway, you can see the yellow there. All right, now we're going to make some more of that orange with quite a bit of water. I'm going to add a little bit more red to it and a little bit more yellow to it and maybe even more yellow to it. Man, red is very powerful. All right, there we go. All right, so we are going to start by doing our horizontal. I mean, it's actually vertical, but it's horizontal to where we are now because we turned our paper. So we're just going to get some orange in there. Go right up to your yellow, and it's okay if it blends a little bit. That's not a problem. Now I'm going a little bit thinner. Right at the top, I'm just letting my brush just go just slightly in a little bit. Just slightly in, like that. All right, so we're just covering our whole canvas. Now, this part was a little lighter, so I'm going to turn my paper this way and grab this little part down here. Oops, let me get my paints out of the way. There we go. And I really used all of that orange. It is gone. I'm just going to brush a little bit of water right at the edges of where that yellow and orange meet. Because it had dried a little bit, and so I had like a weird hard line, and I didn't want that. All right. So once you're done, you can turn it. Now we're going to let it dry just a little bit. I was trying to think about the things, and if you guys have any ideas, then it would be great. I'm thinking about the things I want to talk about in next week's kitty stream, my little kitten stream that I'm going to do instead of drawing, because I would still like to talk about art. even though it's going to be a just chatting, I'd still like to have some discussion about art. But I was thinking maybe we could talk about the philosophy of art, and maybe look at like art history a little bit and how the philosophy of art has changed and how it's been challenged. For example, at one point in time, art was anything that was beautiful. But then Duchamp, an artist from, I believe, the 30s, the 20s and 30s, he challenged that concept. So it started different art movements, and I thought maybe we could talk about like some of the art movements that have happened, and I don't know, just a discussion, I guess. Maybe I might be able to get my chatting up by then, because so one of the guys that I stream, AZMR, he has it on his stream where you can actually, on Discord, you can be chatting like through voice at the same time while he's streaming. And so that might be kind of cool. So I was thinking about getting that set up, especially for my crochet stream, because that is a more chatty stream. And there's a lot of period where I'm just like going, so there's not as much of me talking. So it would take some of the pressure off of me to talk. So maybe I'll try to get that set up. But if you guys have any ideas of what we can talk about, because I would like to still talk about art, even though we're not going to be doing an art stream per se. It's going to be more about cute kitties. But, I would like to still have some art discourse. So if you guys have ideas, let me know. All right. Now, still have some water in this yellow. I'm going to pick up some of that yellow. It should be pretty dark. And we're going to do just some different lines. Maybe some are bigger than others. You guys can see those lines. We've got some small ones. They're going to kind of be jagged, like, they're going to kind of go back and forth because it's with the flow of the water. These are pretty thick. Pretty thick lines. Now some of my lines are starting to you can actually add, if you want, a little bit of water to them and watch what that does. You can move them around a little bit. See what that does. Okay. So now what we're going to do is while those are drying. Okay. So I want to go ahead, since Crixano said that his painting sucks, I want to go ahead and institute my rule number 3. So I do have, for my classroom, my actual live classroom, I have rules. Rule number 1 is clean workspace. Rule number 2 is don't rush. Rule number 3 is no disparaging the art or the artwork. We don't say negative things about our artwork, or anybody else's, of course. So basically in my classroom, you're not allowed to say this sucks, I'm terrible, anything like that. It's kind of a hard rule, but because I know that you want to, but we are a positive classroom. So I just want to put that out there. I know that I can't stop you from saying things to yourself, but I do really want to encourage you to be positive and to, instead of looking at things you like or don't like, look at things that are effective or ineffective. And by changing that vocabulary, it actually changes how you think about yourself as well. So like our self-talk, your painting is very ineffective. Well, you have to be specific. You have to say what is ineffective about it. What specifically is ineffective. But yeah, and the thing is that with paintings, mine isn't that great right now either, but we're right at the beginning of it, so it's kind of like that tree that we did last night. It started out not looking so great, and I even slipped myself, and I was saying how I wasn't happy with the tree and things like that. So, trust me, it's a hard rule to follow, because we're trained, our society teaches us to not talk to ourselves in a very positive way. So I'm trying to encourage my artists, myself and my artists who follow me, to try to use more positive self-talk and to try to be more constructive with your feedback, even if it's feedback on your own work. So keep that in mind. Also, more than likely, it does not suck. That is just the way you are used to talking to yourself, is by saying negative things. Because I know, like, for example, last night, you did the drawing and you felt like, he said my painting is very good at being ineffective. That's funny. That's pretty good. But like last night with your drawing, it actually was quite good, but you don't see that because either you're wanting it to look like mine, which guess what? I've been doing this for 30 plus years. So I'm better than you. You're not even 30 plus years old. So like my artwork is going to be better just because my skill is more honed. That's all it is. It's not because I'm a better artist or I'm more talented or anything like that. I just have had more time to hone my skill. That's it. And so in 30 years, I guarantee your artwork is going to probably honestly look better than mine if you really keep at it, because I wasn't consistent with it like I should have been. So the thing about it is that you have to remember that we're all in different levels. We're all at different places in our pathways as artists. And so not to get too discouraged if yours doesn't look exactly like mine. And there's also something where like your art style might be different than mine, right? So you might be a more, like say you're a more impressionistic artist, whereas I'm not. I tend to be very realistic. Well, there's nothing wrong with impressionistic artists, and maybe that's something we'll actually talk about next Friday, because I do want to talk about like the impressionists and some of the different eras. So just keep in mind that you're a beginner. I did this too with my weaving. I used to get so frustrated, and I would tell my you're on this tip. I would tell my my teacher, my weaving teacher, oh man, her selvages, which is the outside of the weaving, her selvages look so good. And I like, how could I do that? And she's like, well, Sarah, I've been doing this for years and years and years, and like you just started, so yours is not going to look as good as mine. And if it does, it's a fluke. It really is. There were people that had really nice selvages, or their weavings were really nice and even and things like that. And, maybe there is a little bit of talent there for people that do it really well right off the bat, but that's not most people. This is a skill. Art is a skill. And I think that, anyway, I got off on a long thing, but it's a really important, that you have positive self-talk. Even if it's a joke, even if you're joking about it, it's still important to keep it positive. Okay. My stuff isn't completely dry, especially the areas where I added water, but I can go ahead and start adding the blues. So let's do that. So I'm going to use 2 different color blues. I'm going to mix both of them, but I'm going to put them in their own pods. So this is going to be my warm blue. And again, it almost doesn't matter. You don't need very much because watercolor goes a long way. But even if you have too much there, you always let it dry and then just reuse it later. I'll probably continue using this palette for other watercolor classes. Crixano says, oh, by the way, Flex, I'm going to look at your drawing at the end of the stream. Since I had problems with Discord, I don't want to risk it dying on us again. I'm assuming that was the problem, was with Discord. So I'm going to look at it at the end of the stream. But thank you for sharing that, and we'll take a look. Okay. Crixano says, I'm almost never very positive about myself, I don't think. Well, you know, I mean, that's something to work on, because that's a skill too, right? By the way, just so you know, I'm just like kind of bending, like rolling my painting since it's a little bit wet. Positive self-talk is a skill. Almost everything that we do is a skill, honestly. So that, you know what that means? It means it's something you can learn to do well. Because every skill can be learned to do well. I'm going to actually move my painting out of the way while I do this, because I almost always drip water on my painting, and that's not cool. Because the water will reconstitute, so you'll end up just having like a blob there. So I'm doing the same thing I did before. So I'm adding water. Now I'm doing it with a smaller brush, so I have to do a few more times. Now look, this one's already mixing over here. This one's like really excited to mix. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this one mixed. This is my cool blue, and if you can't remember which blue it is, just paint a little bit right there and let it dry, and you'll be able to tell the color difference. When you can actually paint it on the other side too. But you should be able to tell. One's going to look more purple than the other. The cooler blue is the more purplish one. Now remember, if you're using the palette like this, all you're going to do is take some of your warmer blue, mix it here, and then just add a little bit of purple to it. You don't need to add as much to make this color, because we're going to be going for a middle color. So just a reminder that that's something you can be doing. Flex says, Crix, practicing thinking positive is hard and slow and testing, but for some reason it does work. Only took me 40 odd years to get it. And of course it's not perfect, and I do fail some days, but it's worth trying. That's really great advice, Flex. And thank you for sharing that in the chat. It is worth trying. You know, I'm 42, and now I've been positive for a long time, because I started my positive talk when I was probably about 19. I just started looking in a mirror and telling myself great things about myself. That was it. That was how I did it. And I talked to myself in the third person, you know, so I talked to myself as if the person in the mirror was another person, not just a reflection of me. And that really helped. And I said things like you. So I guess I was talking in the second person, but you know, I said things like, you are amazing, you are beautiful, you are wonderful, that kind of thing. You can be very specific, you know, you are a great writer, you are a fantastic artist, you know, you can get even more specific. You draw really straight lines. You know, it could be whatever, and it doesn't even have to be true right away. The thing about it is that it's just getting used to talking to yourself like you would other people, because we don't talk down to other people. I mean, hopefully you don't tell people that they're a terrible artist and that their paintings look awful, and that, you know, I mean, hopefully think about talking to a child. You wouldn't talk to a child that way. Why would you talk to yourself that way, you know? Flex says, I don't do mirror or talk, just my head conversation. Yeah. I mean, some people just do it in their head. Mirror works for me. I really like mirrors. I actually have one right here. You guys can't see it. But I like mirrors because it's a reminder for me to be me, you know, and not to try to put on any acts or anything like that, which, you know, I don't have much problem with anymore. But the mirror is just a reminder that I like me. Okay. Blue. Let's mix some blue. All right, so I'm going to get some of my dark blue, my ultramarine, and just add it right to the middle here. Now I'm using my small brush, so it's kind of going slow. Okay, now I'm going to add some of my phthalo blue, which is my warm blue. Let's see, I think I added about 5. So I'll do about 5. Okay, we'll mix that and see what we get. Phthalo blue is like a little bit more, it takes over a little bit more, so we don't need as much of it. All right, so let's see. Crick said, I don't know. I just don't want to be so positive that I become blind to how bad I really am, which would make me both arrogant and unskilled. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm unskilled, but I can come across as pretty arrogant. And you know what? It doesn't bother me that much because it's like, well, I would rather love myself than have other people, like, you know, to impress other people. I mean, who cares what other people think? Whatever, you know? I mean, I do care what some people think, but it's a very small group of people, and it's like my friends and family, you know. It's more acceptable to talk down to yourself than other people. And that's exactly the case. I mean, that's the thing, is that the way we treat other people is significantly different than how we treat ourselves. So if you keep in mind that you are a person that is worth talking to, consider that somebody else is going to talk to you. You wouldn't want someone else to talk to you the way you talk to yourself. So don't talk to yourself that way. You know, you deserve better. Yeah, so, yeah. The thing about it is that I just look at it as I would rather be positive and love myself than pretty much anything else. Hating yourself is possibly the worst feeling in the world because there's no other thing from that, right? You can't love other people. Not really. If you don't love yourself, you can't really love somebody else. You can't let other people love you. You can't, you know, it's hard to find a job that you're satisfied with. It's hard to find partners you're satisfied with. It's hard to be satisfied with your kids. It's hard to be satisfied with your social groups, your friends, you know. It's really hard to be satisfied with life if you don't love yourself. So since that comes first, I would say that whatever it takes to love yourself is probably worth it, right? Because everything else is secondary. Literally everything else. So, you know, to me, it's worth it. Whatever the repercussions. If it means that I'm arrogant or that somebody thinks I'm arrogant, whether I am or not, fine. Because loving myself allows me to enjoy my job, enjoy my friends, enjoy my life in general, you know? So it's worth it. Okay. All right, so here we go. We're going to do some lines. So first I'm going to come from one off the page, okay? And this is actually considerably darker than I want it to be. I told you this phthalo blue, man, it takes over. So, I mean, I said darker. It's, I meant that it was more warmer. Okay, I'm going to actually pick some of this up. You know what? Boop. We're just going to do that. Check that out. It was still wet, so it can happen. Okay, I'm going to get some more water in this. Did I just get water on my... No. All right. I got distracted talking about self-esteem. Self-confidence is a really big deal to me. This is one of the things as a personal trainer, this is what I work with people on, is their self-confidence. Okay, so let's get the better blue in here. So I'm going to do... it's kind of similar to the... I added some water and I added some ultramarine blue to cool it down a little bit. It was just a little too warm. So you can have like some lines are going to be closer to each other. So see what I'm doing? Some of them are darker, some of them are lighter. It's okay. They're all going to dry differently. Okay, now on this other side, and I'm very concerned because my paper is really buckling. Now you can fix this later. It's not a problem to like wait till everything dries and then just flatten it under something, like on some heavy books. But I don't want it to be like right now. It's kind of a problem because I don't want it to like everything to go this way, because then I'm going to have like weird dark color on this side, right? So I just got to try to keep, let's see, I'll put my water right on the edge and try to keep it down. So all I'm doing here is just like my sketchy little lines. You can have them come in right into the yellow area. I'm just letting my brush touch it in places. So Crixana, you said that the problem is that you value other people more than yourself. And that is a problem, because the fact of the matter is that you are the only person that is going to be around you for your entire life. Like literally, you are the only person that will be around. There is no other person you can count on. You know, by the time you get to be 80, your mom and dad will be dead. Your brothers and sisters may not be around. And in fact, your brothers and sisters might not have been around when you were born. I don't know where you were, but like I was the first born, so I was around for 2.5 years before my sister was born. So it was just me. Your friends aren't going to be around forever. Your partners aren't going to be around forever. Like that's it. You are the only person that gets to be around you. So you have to put yourself first. I mean, if you don't, you're just going to be miserable your entire life. All right, I'm adding some water to this, just a little bit, but especially these areas here where it was like really dark. Okay. Bloody Wing, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. If you're just joining, we're doing a watercolor, and we've been having some very serious discussion about self-confidence. I'm glad you could join us today. We were just talking about the importance of self-confidence. Okay. I'm going to actually carry one of these off the page a little bit. GMT +1. Yeah, I'm doing everything in Pacific time now. So it puts me a little bit farther away from you. I am now GMT -7. So now we're 8 hours apart. Yeah, it's very late. I know. Sorry. My not that you are interested in crochet, but my crochet stream is also in the middle of the day, as of right now. And once I start working, that might change, but as of right now, it's still the middle of the day. Okay. So I'm going to add a little bit. I'm going to actually just make a new well right here that's just water. And I'm going to add just a little bit of the blue to it. That blue that we mixed in the middle. Let's see, add a little more water. Okay, well, good. I'm glad you don't hold it against me. I do enjoy that you are able to drop by though. Okay, so what I'm doing is just adding water. I'm taking this watery mix and just adding it directly to my, like the areas that I did. Now, because it's lighter, what it's doing is it's mixing in like this, I want to make sure I keep adding water, but it's mixing in this interesting way. Now these should be mostly dry, so I'm just going right over them. I'm not even. I'm not trying to stay with the lines or anything like that. I'm just going over them. And what's going to happen is the water will mix and it will dry in like a new, unique way. And it's unique because you can't help what it does. The universe is just going to do it for you. Now you can just go over with pure water if you want. That's also an option. Like say if I want to just go over with pure water, you can. I just like adding a little bit of color to it because I think it looks more interesting. All right, now let's see, there's a couple of areas here I want to I'm just like, what I'm doing is taking my brush and just going over them a bunch of times. And what it'll do is kind of loosen up that paint and let it re-dry in a different way. You can take a little bit of your dark color if you want and just smack it down in there. Because it's wet, it's going to dry interestingly. See how it's starting to fracture off a little bit? That's what we want. So and it'll dry in like these very interesting ways. This is my absolute favorite part of watercolor. The part you can't control. And you know what? I just dripped on my painting twice. We'll have to get that up. Okay. So where my drips are, I'm going to very carefully try to get up the water without actually touching it too much. And hopefully that won't affect the sky too much. All right. Get some water here. A little tiny bit of paint in there. And all I'm doing, I'm adding water, adding a little bit of the paint, like the darker color, just a tiny bit. All I'm doing is just kind of touching it in areas. And all that does is it kind of dries in these interesting ways. This is the real magic of watercolor. Okay. And Crixano, I promise I'm going to read what you wrote here in a minute. I just need to focus a little bit so that the painting doesn't take too long for those who are watching my VODs. Okay. So let's see. I'm just like bringing some of these out to a point. All right. So we're going to let these dry. These are like kind of a weird haphazard looking thing. We can do the same with our yellow. And just get some water on there. Now, some of my yellow was not even completely dry yet, which I think is pretty interesting, considering we did that so long ago. I'm going to be honest, if you're not trying very hard, like if you try too hard, it's possible to mess it up. But if you're not trying very hard, it's almost impossible to mess up watercolor. Watercolor is so serendipitous that like it's going to end up looking good as long as you just don't force anything. Just don't force it. Just kind of let it happen. All right. So we are going to need to let this dry. So here's what I want to do, because that is ominously close, Crixano, to saying that it's not good. It's so close. But you skated right under that line. Let's go ahead and mix our tree area while this is drying. Okay. So I need to get some burnt umber. I'm going to actually wipe this up. There. So let's put a little burnt umber. Oh, okay. So if you ever have a lid that is stuck, you can just put it, I run it under warm water, but I don't have any warm water right off the top. So I'm just putting it right into the water. And then you take your paper towel and just kind of, like I've got my thumbnail, but you can push something into it and just kind of twist it. And see that, pull some of that off. What happens is, and then I'll use my paper towel. There we go. Nice. And now it opens easy. You just have to reconstitute sometimes the paint actually dries under the lid. And so you just have to like get it wet again and make it liquidy again. All right, so I'm going to put that here. So get a little bit of burnt umber. And we're going to make a black color. So we've done this in acrylic before, but black is made by mixing purple and brown, really. But basically you've got, if you mix your three colors, red, yellow, and blue, you're going to get kind of a grayish color. If you add like another dark color, like the brown, it's going to darken it up so much that it looks black. So what we're going to do is I'm going to leave this color for now just in case we need some more of it. So I'm going to mix my black color here. So I'm going to go ahead and get some water so I don't drip over my sky. Let's just bring this over. So I'm just getting some water. We're going to add some water to our brown so we can, make our little puddle that we do at the beginning, like we did with the other colors. Okay. So we'll go ahead and agitate the brown and get that going. All right, while I'm agitating this, I can read what you said. Roxana says, well, I think that if I'm miserable, that's sort of the price I have to pay because I don't believe that putting myself before others is the right thing for me. Not to say that it's not the right thing for other people, because my expectations for myself are much bigger than my expectations for other people. Well, here's one way to look at that. If you're miserable, I guarantee you're making other people miserable. That's like kind of a harsh way to say it, but it's the truth. When you're down, you bring other people down. So that means you don't really care about other people, because if you did, then you would be a more positive person around them, right? You'd be a more positive influence in their life. You would inspire them, all kinds of things. But if you're miserable, you can't inspire other people. So it's kind of a catch-22. you can say that you're putting other people first, but in reality you're not. I'm gonna be really blunt, and it's not gonna sound very nice, but most of the time the reason people stay miserable is because it's easier, because they don't want to do the hard work. And they convince themselves that they're doing it for these noble reasons, like they want to put other people first. And I'm not saying this is necessarily why you're doing it, but 9 times out of 10, it's just because it's really hard. It is really hard to do the things you have to do to get better and to make yourself feel better. So I challenge you to really take a deep look at yourself and see if maybe that's part of the reason. Because the thing is you're not really putting other people first. You know, when you are mopey and depressed and, you know, anxious and all of those things, do you think that makes the people around you feel good? No. So you're not doing it for other people. You know, you're not putting other people first. Just something to consider, that improving yourself, everything works outward, right? Improving yourself is going to improve it for other people. Like, think about if you were really happy and really confident, how much better the people around you would feel, you know? You said it's self-indulgent too. You're exactly the same as everyone else, no difference at all. Shit happens to all of us. Yeah, that's true. So you're not around other people for a reason. Well, I mean, that's the thing. Okay, if you're not around other people, then there's nobody to put first. So just go ahead and put yourself first, you know? We're going to get you, Crixano. Don't you worry. We're going to convince you. Me and Flex together, we're going to convince you that loving yourself is the absolute best thing you can do. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm bringing in some of my brown into this little water mixture that I made. Bringing in some brown. And then I'm going to mix in some blue. Okay, so let's see. Let's do our ultramarine blue. Ultramarine is the cooler blue, the one that looks a little bit more purple. Again, if you can't remember which one it is, paint a little bit of this here. Paint a little bit of this here. Oops. You know what? I should have just done these next to each other. It's a lot easier to see. Come on. Oh. Or even better. I promise, guys, we're going to get there. So you can do that and just wipe some of it off. So you can definitely see now this one's way warmer than this one, right? But you can also paint them next to each other, like on a napkin or something like that. And you can see this one has a lot more purple in it. It's a lot cooler. Okay, so let's grab the cooler color, and I'm going to mix it right into that brown. Now look, that's already looking black, right? Look at that nice color. Now that's a little bit more blue than I'd like it, so I'm going to mix a little more brown in. And what we can do is we can paint our napkin and see what color it looks. So it's kind of a purplish blue. I'm actually okay with this color. I might add just a tiny bit more brown, but I'm okay with this color. Yeah, look at that. That's a nice kind of grayish purple. That's the color we're going with. Okay, so let's do this. Let's go ahead. This stuff is still drying, so I'm going to go ahead and paint right at that horizon line. And try to follow that first line that you made. See, you guys came here for an art stream and you ended up getting a counseling session and how to be confident, you know? That's how we roll around here. We're multi-purpose. You come with some paper and a brush and some paint, and you leave with a painting and loving yourself. It's got to be a great stream, you know? All right, so I have my initial line here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make kind of a jagged line. It's not, I don't want it to all be the same height, so I'm letting it kind of, it's going to go right across my sun. Just letting it be a jagged line. There we go. And then we're going to fill this in. Just fill it in. I've got this Eve song stuck in my head. If you guys don't know who Eve is, he is a Japanese artist, musician. And I cannot pronounce the name of the song, so sorry. Can't share it with you. I can probably type it. But it's a very upbeat song, and I like it. I listen to a lot of upbeat music. It keeps me upbeat, too. All right, so I'm just filling this in. You can still see that line underneath. That's okay. We're going to take care of that. All right, I'm going to let this dry for just a minute. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to go grab that Eve song. You mix the ultramarine blue with the burnt umber, and that's how you get that dark purplish gray color. So it's the cooler blue, the ultramarine blue. Okay, so let me, really quick, I'm going to go grab that song because I do want to share it with you guys. I love it. I love it so much. It's just super upbeat. Okay, so we're going to see, I'm going to try to type this. Okay, so give me just a minute. Let's see. It's so this is one of my upbeat songs that I like, that I have stuck in my head right now. It's my little earworm. There we go. That's the song. I have no idea how to pronounce that. If anybody can pronounce Japanese, that'd be fantastic. You can share with me. All right, so this should be kind of dry enough for me to add another layer of my dark color. So I'm coming in. Now this time you don't have to go all the way to the top. You can leave it to, like, if you want to leave like a little bit of a hazy you know, background, you can. We're going to be doing yet another layer, so you don't have to if you want to leave your next layer as your haziness, or if you don't want to do haziness at all, you don't have to. This is your work. You make it you. Now while we're letting this next layer dry, I'll read chat and see what everybody's talking about. See if we can continue our self-confidence talk. I'm going to have to mix some more of this color. You can see I'm dwindling. My supply is dwindling. Ah, I'm running out. Oh no, I'm going to have to mix more. Okay. So let's get brown in there. Brown, brown, brown. Get some blue. Don't forget, it's the ultramarine blue, the cool blue. Cool. All right, that's pretty good. If you need to check your color, remember this was the one we went with. So this is a little bit more grayish. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with it being a little bit darker. If anything, this will just be my bottom layer. I think the main difference there is I maybe had a little bit more brown. The more water you get in here too, You can add the color and it will like dry however it wants to dry. It's the great thing about watercolor. Watercolor just does what it wants to do. It don't care about you. That's for sure. That's why I like it. Watercolor is salty. It just does its own thing. Based watercolor. That's what we've got here. It knows the rules. It doesn't follow them. It doesn't care. Okay. So, let's see. So, the last thing, okay, so Crixano said self-indulgent is about pleasure seeking according to the definition. Just so you know, by the way, I'm letting this dry a little bit. According to the definition given by Google, having higher expectation for myself and hating myself is definitely not pleasurable. And Flex said, because you're putting yourself on a level and everyone else on another, when we all have the same thoughts and feelings. And that is true. I mean, the thing about it is that it's going to sound kind of backwards, but this is how I sometimes feel in politics, is that when somebody is doing something for somebody else, you're kind of putting yourself above them, right? You are putting yourself on at the very least a different level, whether it's above or below. But even though you're maybe putting yourself last, supposedly, you know, like you're sacrificing something, you're still putting yourself above them because you are thinking for them. You're trying to do things for them when maybe they haven't even asked you for that. Maybe they haven't asked for your help. Maybe they haven't asked you to sacrifice yourself for them. So what you're doing by doing that is putting yourself above them, that you know their needs better than they know them. And like I said, I see this in politics sometimes, and it really bugs me because it's like, you know, if somebody's asking for your help and they're asking for you to support them, that's one thing. But, you know, or if, say, somebody or something can't support itself, like, for example, animals, like animal cruelty, I think is something that's really important because animals can't, I mean, they can defend themselves for sure, but maybe not, you know, we can still overpower them because we're bigger, right? So I think that their rights do need someone to speak on their behalf. Okay. But other people can think for themselves. So unless they ask you for their help, it's not really your place to help them, you know? That's just my take on it. That doesn't mean that I'm right, you know? Everybody has their own opinions. Let's see. Okay, but that's my point on that. Okay, so Flex said you can pronounce it, but you don't know what it says. Basically know the Japanese alphabet and how to pronounce stuff. Oh, that's pretty cool that you took Japanese. That's pretty awesome. Like, man, I really want to learn Japanese at some point because I'm a fiber artist, and let's see, this is still shiny, so it's still drying. As a fiber artist, you know, Japan is very, very rich culturally in fiber arts. You know, shibori, indigo dyeing, you've got weaving, you've got all kinds of stuff there, and I really want to go there someday and learn how some of these traditional Japanese techniques, and I think it would be great if I could speak Japanese. So that is one of the it's one of the languages I want to learn. Right now I'm learning Spanish because, my gosh, I live amongst a lot of people that speak Spanish and I cannot speak. So that's what I'm doing. I'm doing it like a little bit with immersion. You know, I just watch Spanish TV shows, or I watch TV shows that I know, especially kids shows. I watch them dubbed with Spanish, no subtitles, just completely Spanish. But kids shows are good because they speak differently, right? So think about it. If you're learning a language, you're basically a kid, right? Because kids have to learn their language, like their native language, from scratch. So watch kids shows because they speak more simply. Their words are simpler, and they also don't use a lot of slang, things like that. So it's easier to understand kids shows. Anyway, so that's my take on learning languages. And I do understand it a lot better now. I am starting to understand Spanish quite well. I don't speak it as well yet, but that's going to actually take some practice. But just watching the shows, I understand it. Okay. So what do we have here? Okay. Oh, good. I got what you meant. Okay. Thanks, Flex. I thought that's what you were saying. Putting other people before myself. I'm not saying it means to do things on behalf of other people. What I really mean is having higher expectations for yourself than other people and sacrificing yourself when other people need it. Yes, but sacrificing yourself when other people need it, like, okay, well, you gave an example. Let's give it an example. You recently thought about, somebody asks you a question, but you don't have time to answer it. You should answer it because they are more important than what you want to do. So I don't agree with that. I do see where you're coming from. I 100% don't agree with it. Your time is important. And the thing about it is like, let's say that your time, the reason why you're too busy is because you have work to do. So let's say you took the time to answer that question and that cost you some time at work and your boss noticed and you got written up for it. I mean, this is an extreme example. Obviously, that's probably not going to happen. But the point is that when you're sacrificing yourself, you're probably still sacrificing somebody else. I mean, what was it that you had to do? Was that thing that you had to do only for yourself, or was it going to benefit somebody else? Because almost everything that you do in our society has an effect on someone else. Just you going to the grocery store has an effect on the people that work there, the other shoppers, the other drivers, and you getting there. If you take a taxi or an Uber, the person who drove you, everything you do affects somebody else for the most part. So yeah, you decided to answer this question instead of going to the store, but now that taxi driver doesn't get your fare. That grocery store doesn't get your money, and the employees there don't benefit from you giving money to that store. Everything affects somebody else, right? You got to take care of yourself first. That's how you become a better person for everybody else. You do you. All right. Okay, so I got to focus on this because this is pretty dry. So we got to get back to this. Let's go. All right. First, I'm going to do, so I want this to be pretty saturated. So what I'm going to do is pick up some more color. I'm not going to add any water. Pick up some more brown. We'll come back. We'll come back to this subject at the end of stream. I want to talk more about it, but I also want to focus. So let's see how black this is. Yeah, that's pretty black right here. Okay. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do our stems in the front. You know what? I just noticed something. No, you know what? I like it the way it is. I was looking and I was thinking that there needed to be some more fluidity in the water, but actually I'm going to do it. Okay, so get some water on your brush. Now what this is going to do is this is going to make it, I really want to blend some of these. So this is what I'm debating. If I blend these, we're not going to be able to do our stalks because it's going to, but I do want to blend these a little bit more. So I'm going to take water. I'm just washing over. Ooh, no, I got too close to my trees. Look what's happening to my trees up here. So you just take a brush. This happens. Just take a dry brush and just kind of try to dry it up. Oops. That wasn't a happy accident either. So I'm just washing water over everything. Over everything. Okay, so I'm doing the sides first. Trying not to touch my tree area. Duh, Sarah. Duh. All right. What this is going to do is just going to blend things together a little bit more. I just am not happy with like how choppy it looks. So I'm going to fix it. Okay, so let me make sure my brush is pretty clean. And then I'm going to brush it right across the yellow. Oh no, I did it again. Actually, that looks really cool though. So I'm just taking a dry brush and just wiping it right across. Okay, so I got that up. Oops. Oopsie. So now that it's wet here, I don't have any more of my orange color, so I got to make some real quick. I like how gross that water is now. All right, we're going to make this very watery with our gross water. Okay. Gross water. Look at that. It's really gross. It's okay. It's not going to hurt it. So I'm going to take this and just kind of put it in the middle areas. What it's going to do is it's mixing with that blue a little bit. Hopefully it's still wet. It seems like it's still wet in places. It's going to make a little bit of a brown because blue plus orange equals brown. They're opposite colors. I mean, technically blue plus orange equals gray, but because I'm adding the orange to it, there's more orange than there is blue, so it's going to make it a brown. Anytime you have more of the warmer color, it makes it brown. All right, so now we're gonna have to wait for this to dry. Sorry guys, but you know what? It was the sacrifice that needed to be made for the art. So guess what? I put my art first before y'all. So sorry, but it's important. It's important, you gotta do it. There's an example, see? But you guys are gonna benefit from this, I think. I think in the end, you'll end up benefiting from me putting my aesthetic first here. So, I did it on purpose as a demonstration. I'm just kidding, I really didn't. But it did kind of work perfectly. And look at that, I'm thinking it's looking way better now. Way better. I don't want to get too close to my trees, but I really need that to be more orange up there. Okay. While we're waiting for this to dry, let's chat a little bit. Okay. So where did I leave off here? All right, so you gave the example, and then Flex said, how do you know if you have higher expectations? Others have expectations too. Like, do you think because I'm not you, I have lower expectations of myself? How do you measure that? Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, again, saying that you have higher expectations for yourself, I get it too. I get where, okay, like, so I have high standards for myself. For example, when I type, I try to use, now I've gotten bad about it because of just, you know, being in chat rooms, online chat rooms a lot. You end up just not typing. Your grammar is not as great. But I try to use correct grammar. I try to use correct capitalization, things like that. I used to get annoyed when other people didn't do that. And then I realized that I just needed to get with the times, because the fact of the matter is that it's chat, right? It's text. It's extra effort to capitalize things, to, you know, spell things correctly, things like that. So I got over that. But I still do it for myself. So to me, that's a good example, I think, of where your standards for yourself might be higher than your standards for other people. I don't expect other people to do the same thing I do. At the same time, what I'm doing in that circumstances, I am creating judgment. Even if I don't consciously think it, there is judgment there where I'm saying I'm doing something better than other people do. That's not true, right? There is no better or worse when it comes to that. I mean, it just is what it is. It's a type of communication. I'm communicating in a different way than other people are communicating. That's all. But it's very easy to fall into, by holding yourself to quote unquote higher standards, it's very easy to fall into thinking that you do things in a better way because your standards are better. It's like you know what the standards should be. That makes sense. So you're still putting yourself first. Anyway. Okay. So Crixana said, no, I have lower expectations for you. Okay. I think you're saying this is kind of the same thing I am. I think maybe you're just not seeing it from the same perspective that Flux and I are seeing it. Like that the whole higher standards. But you're saying that your standards are higher. So if your standards are higher and you do things at those standards, who says that that is a higher standard? Who says that, in my case, using correct capitalization, correct grammar, things like that, who says that that is better, right? That is a higher standard. I mean, just by saying higher, you're putting it above the thing that other people are doing or that you are allowing them to do, and that in and of itself is very kind of condescending, really. You know, that you allow other people to not do things as well as you think they should be done. It's kind of patronizing, really. Like I said, I mean, it's very hard to get around when you think for other people, or you start thinking of things like higher standard, like standards and doing things higher or lower or whatever. Once you start thinking like that, then you start creating levels, you know. And the fact of the matter is we just all do things differently. How I paint is, you know, different than how you guys paint. And by the way, this is almost dry. You don't want to use, I do want to tell you guys something. You don't want to use a hair dryer or anything with watercolor. Acrylic, no problem. Hair dry away. No problem. Blow dry away, rather, with your hair dryer. Acrylic is not a big deal. Watercolor, though, you want it to be like haphazard. You want it to be very serendipitous. So if you dry it with a hair dryer, it forces it to dry exactly where it is and doesn't allow it to continue to creep a little bit. Like, look up here. Look at the way this dried here, where the edges are like a little bit darker, or like right here where the edges is darker. The edge is darker here. It's darker down here. You know, like that wouldn't have happened if I blew a hair dryer on it, right? You know, that would have just dried where it was. And that it would not have gone out to the edge like that. So I think that it's important to just let it dry naturally. Now, my paper is still damp, but it's not completely wet. The only places I can see that are still a little bit wet are up here, you know, where it's shiny a little bit in my my tree line. So I'm not too worried about those. I'm just trying to bend my picture. All right. So we made more of our black color. So that's what we're going to use next. All right. So starting from the bottom, and let's see so you guys can actually see my bottom. Starting from the bottom, I'm going to start like a little bit past the bottom, okay? So I'm going to actually start kind of outside the paper. And I'm just going to scoop up. Now, if you need to come back into this, you can. It's a lot easier to come back into it, so because you can just, it's already wet, so you can just kind of lightly touch it with the color, and it will go in the place that you want it to go. By the way, it appears that I have, or I did have anyway, quite a few people on my stream that were watching. So if you were watching and you were listening to our chat about self-confidence and putting other people before yourself and things like that, you're welcome to join in or ask me questions about the art, whatever. Our chats usually get pretty interesting around here. So, all right, I'm going to do this again. So again, I started off the page. Now I'm not going to try to, well, no, I am going to try to fix this. I'm going to try to fix that later. Right now, I really just want to get, so this one, I'm going to press down a little bit more and then loosen up. Oop. So I'm just letting them be kind of curly and wispy. I'll let that go pretty high up the page. In fact, maybe this one here goes higher. This one's going to crisscross. I always let my brush up a little bit too soon. We can add to these later, so don't worry about if they're not too dark. All right, I'm going to do another little one that kind of swoops up here. He's going to come up kind of high. All right, so then I'm going to have some grasses. Similar situation, these just aren't going to come as high. Whoop. Yeah. Okay. Now we are going to, I'm going to actually add to these. Oops. Trying to follow the line that was there. And then at the top, we're going to do little V's. So little tiny V's. V, 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 V. And then I'm going to have like an arch that comes out from it. That's like a leaf. And then I'm going to do another one that arches. It's going to end before it gets to the stem, the stalk. So that's just going to make the leaf look kind of fatter on the outside. So let's do that again, going the other way. So I've got an arch. Then I'm going to do another one that's going to end a little soon. Just kind of arches up there. All right. So this one didn't have anything on it. I'm just using the reference photo right now. Just a reminder, if you want to check out the reference photo, it's in the Discord. So we're going to do some V's at the top. V, 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 V. We can always come back over this if we want. I'm going to do a little guy here. Oops. The other way you can do it is you can just kind of scoop under. So I'm just tracing right now. I'm just tracing my original. right, we're going to have to make some more of this black, so don't worry if you run out. We're going to be making more. Now I encourage you, sneeze, excuse me. I encourage you, if you're using something like this, not to use your black, but to go ahead and make it with the blue and the brown, or you can use purple and brown, because you get a more organic color than if you use like pure black. All right, I'm gonna have to make some more. So get brown. And then get blue. I don't put as much blue in there as brown. If you want to check the color, I just put a little bit right here. That looks pretty black. So that's what we're going to use. All right, so we're going to do our V's at the top. V, V. And we can come back in and do more V's and like make it look a little bit. So like, for example, over here, this is dry. So I can come in here and do some more V's. And it's going to make it look even more layered. You can really go crazy with this stuff. All right. I think maybe I'm missing a stalk in here somewhere. We're just gonna use this one. This one's gonna have a little V guy at the top. Hey V guy. There we go. Oops. Well, it happens. I messed up a little bit. That's okay. You know, Flex, out of curiosity, what made you decide to learn Japanese? Like, of all languages to learn, like, why that? Are you into anime? I mean, I know that's like probably a stereotype that I just made that assumption, but it's why a lot of my friends learn Japanese. Crixano, you have been warned. I told you, you're not allowed to talk like that in this chat. This is a positive chat. I'm not even going to repeat what you said. You got to be positive. You're not allowed to say things like that. Okay. I'm going to do one more of these like V's, a little V guy. V, 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 V. Okay. Well, I mean, I can't stop you from tearing it up, but the chances that it's actually decent are pretty high, because I think you're actually a lot harder on yourself. I mean, you're literally telling us in chat that you are harder on yourself than you are on other people. So I think that probably it's fine. But, you know, I can't stop you. You know, if you want to tear it up, you're the artist. You are absolutely allowed to do that. I encourage you not to, though. I think that would be a waste of your time. I mean, because worst case scenario, you can learn from it, right? So it's never not positive. It's never not positive. You know, you can learn something by letting me take a look at it. Let's see. What do we have here? So I'm going to do a couple more of our like big scoopy leaves here. Oh, for credit at university. All right. Akira. Yeah, Ghibli. Oh man, I'm such a huge Ghibli fan. It's not even funny. I think I actually have like a Totoro dress, somewhere. I really like Studio Ghibli. Attack on Titan, Full Metal Alchemist, and Pokemon. I never got into Pokemon. I think I just was not, I don't know. I don't know why. I just never got into it. I never really got into anime that much in general. I mean, Ghibli is considered anime because it is Japanese animation, but I would not call that it's not traditional anime by any means. So, I don't count that really as anime, even though it is. I'm going over my lines again, by the way. Oh, you're playing Pokemon Go right now. Nice. That's awesome. My nephew played that, but I never really got into it that much. Like, I think I maybe caught one just for fun, just to see what it was like. Crixano, if it's going to make you feel better, I'm not like super thrilled with how mine's turning out either. But it's not terrible, so, I'll survive. I think, though, I'm going to be done with these. Like, I think I'm just overdoing that part too much. All right, so here's what we're going to add. Okay. So we're going to do a couple little guys here. So we're going to do a line and then another little line. Maybe one in the middle. Okay. So we're just going to do some different lines. I'm going to do some here. There. I'm going to do one right here. All right. Now what we're going to do, take your brush, just the very tip. We're going to do just some little lines. Mine are like a lot thicker than I would like them to be. Then we have to do the reflection. The reflection. And your reflection doesn't have to exactly match. You just have to show that there is a reflection. So I'm trying to be very loose about this. You can use a smaller brush. If you have a smaller brush, absolutely use it. Like a size 2 or something. And your lines in the water can be a little bit ripply if you want. So like, see, your lines in the water are kind of ripply. And then it looks like the water's moving. Whatever. It's all right. It's not the greatest, but it'll do. I'm going to go ahead and call it. So traditionally in watercolor, you sign with a pencil. Crixano, I hope you did not tear yours up, and I hope that you share it, because I would like to look at it and we can discuss maybe some things that could be done differently next time. Because here's the thing. My VODs are up so that you can go rewatch this and repaint it. And next time you're going to have the knowledge of what's coming next, so you can prepare for that and you can do things differently. If I were to paint, this is my very first time painting this. If I were to paint this again, it's going to look even different and maybe even better. The thing about it is that when like the painting, the drawing I did last night, I've already done that drawing before. And what's funny is that my first drawing, I think, was probably, technically it was better. Like what I mean by technically is in a technical sense. So, but when you do something more than once, then it becomes practice. And the more you practice, the better you get. So I encourage you, watercolor really doesn't take that much time. It's not like it takes a whole lot of supplies, because I basically can let this stuff dry. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually, everything that's not my main colors, I'm going to just wipe up. You can get a little bit of water. And then I'm going to let this dry. So I'm going to let these dry, and then I'll just reuse them next time. But it's good to clean up everything, because then that's like one less thing you have to... one less thing you have to worry about when you're going to reuse them. Okay, so I'll let that dry. But here's the thing. So, you know, you have your colors that you made. So you can let everything dry. You can do another painting, a separate painting, and like just start over. You can do it a little bit differently next time. Maybe change up your colors entirely, you know, and don't even use blue. Use purple in the water. Don't use yellow for your sun. Use pink for your sun. Who cares? Make it up. It doesn't really matter. I mean, the thing about it is, you know, make your stalks red, you know, like, you know, play with it and go outside of the boundaries of what you think in your mind normal is, because then what happens is you start recognizing that you don't have to be realistic in order for it to be good artwork. There is so much, and we'll talk about this on next Friday. I've already decided in my mind, I think this is what I want to talk about. I want to talk about like different eras of art, and we're going to compare them to each other, because I want you guys to see the difference between photorealism and impressionism and understand that they both look phenomenal. People look at Monet's work and are, you know, it's breathtaking. You know, that their breath is literally taken away because it's so beautiful. If you get up close, it's just a bunch of like little, it's just a little bunch of little brush strokes. It's not, he didn't paint things exactly. It's not realistic at all. It's impressionistic. He was an impressionist. The idea wasn't to be realistic. The idea was to give the impression of something. So, you know, we'll talk about it more next on the Kitten Chat next Friday, but I definitely think that by going outside of the box, and Flux just said that doodling helps him, and I mean, man, look at his stuff. And in fact, we're going to be taking a trip over there and looking at his stuff anyway, but how phenomenal it is and how detailed it is, because he does doodle, because the doodling, it just helps push you into practice and thinking outside of that box, right? And thinking outside of, this has to look like something. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a critique of my work first. Then we're going to head on over to Discord. Here's my Discord right here. Or I'm going to add it to the chat. If you do !Discord, that will give you the link. Or there's a button somewhere on my, you know, if you can't see my chat for some reason, there's a button somewhere on my page, on my Twitch page, under About, I think, that says Discord. Either way, takes you over to Discord. It will join you to my Discord, and you can start sharing your artwork or look at what other people are sharing. If you don't want to share yourself, it's not a problem. All right. So we're going to head over and look in a minute. So let me critique mine first. So I like to say one thing that I think is effective and one thing that I think is ineffective. Now I can go above that, you know, I can go more than that, but that's at least that. So one thing that I think is really effective is my sky. I think that you guys can't even see this as well, because for some reason my lighting, let's see, if I tilt it a little bit, you can see the colors I see. So these are the colors I see, like how dark it is up here. Like because of my light, it looks much pinker to you guys. But this is what I see. So my colors, like this little bit here that comes in here, I think that's so phenomenal. Like that really, this here, this cloud here, these clouds that come into the yellow, like that really sets it up for just looking more like clouds, looking more like a sunset. So I think that was very effective. I think my trees could use a little bit more work. I could probably come in here, You know, I already got rid of my black color that I had, but I could come in here with an even darker color and maybe come in just at the bottom to make it look like maybe there's some bushes or something in the front, you know. I 100% could work on these a little bit more. And in fact, if I were to do this painting again, I would be more careful about these lines, and I would do them farther apart so you could actually see in between them. So like, see how these two, you can see between them. I would do that for more of them, you know, like, or like right here where you can see between those two. I would do that throughout more of them. Similarly, I would focus on trying to do these as thinner lines. And to do thinner lines, all you have to do is just, instead of, you know, pushing down, that's going to be your thickest line. Thinner, thinner, barely touching, you know, and you can practice by just stroking on your hand like that. You can practice with your paintbrush, like just barely touching. And that is how you get very thin lines with a bigger brush, because this is a size 6. You can also just go down to like a size 2 or a size 0 where you basically have a few bristles and that's about it. So you can do that too. But if you want to use a bigger brush, that's how you do it. It's just practice on your hand, just going very gently where you can almost not feel the brush anymore. Okay. Okay, ineffective. So I already started talking a little bit about the ineffective part, which is like I cannot undo this. There are some things I could do. I could come in with pure water and I could just bring in some strokes. So like, I'll show you. So pure water, oops, and that's way too thick. It's probably gonna be hard to do here on stream. But I can come in pure water and reactivate it, and so you can see, so there is a way to fix this, and I say fix in major air quotes because it's not going to be a complete solution. So all I'm doing is taking my brush, which is slightly damp, and I'm just coming in and trying to create some lines that come down at an angle. So you can do that. So look, so that helped a little bit. That did. You know, that made it look more like, you know, like the leafy bits. So I could do that for every single one. I'm not going to do this on stream, but I could do this for every single one, and that would definitely help. So there are some ways that you can kind of adjust, and like you just got to keep working at it. I mean, this is not going to be easy. Fixing things in watercolor is not easy, for sure. When it comes to these little guys, they're probably not going to get any thinner. There's not really a whole lot I could do. I mean, I could come in and I could try to fix, you know, but probably what I'm going to end up doing is just making it worse. Because what's going to happen is I might make that part thinner, right? But now I've got like this weird blob around it that changed the color around it, and it's going to dry, and I'm going to have this weird blob on the outside. So yes, I made that thinner technically, but you know, it's hard because you're painting over other paint. So now the orange beneath it is, I also took some of that off too. See what I'm saying? Okay. Either way though, I think it's highly successful. I think that if I framed this, somebody would probably say, oh, that's what a nice sunset scene, you know? So I think it was successful in that way. Okay, let's go ahead over to Discord and let's take a look. All right. So don't crap out on me now, OBS. All right, so we've got in Art Crit. Okay. Oh, Flex, I thought you posted something, or was that somewhere else? I'll have to pull that up. Okay, so let's take a look at this. All right, so first of all, you're not allowed to say terrible art. I'm telling you, I'm really, This is so important to me. I know that maybe you thought I was being light about it or something like that, but this is my classroom, and it's really important to me that we keep this positive. I don't like words like terrible or awful or whatever. It's not like we're not lying to ourselves. Oh, thank you, Flex. We're not lying to ourselves. What we're doing is we're focusing on the positive aspects of it. So, like, please, I really would like you to stop using that terminology. Like, that's super important to me. Okay, so let's take a look at this. First of all, just right off the bat, I'm going to tell you, I think it's excellent. So let me tell you why. All right. I like and see, I knew this, Crixano. I knew that, like, you did something that you don't think is good, but that other people are going to. All right. So the sky, first of all, you have like a really interesting, here, let me see. Can you guys see my mouse on the screen? I think you can. Okay. So you've got these striations here in the sky, and that's really interesting, and that's very different from how mine looks, right? So you have your own style here with these striations in the sky, but it looks extremely realistic. All right. Then you have, these actually end up looking kind of like mountains, which is pretty cool. So, like, rather than like trees in the distance, you've got mountains. So you totally went your own way with that, and I think that's great. Now, if you intended these to be trees, it's okay. Like Bob Ross says, happy accidents. You might have intended them to be trees. They're not trees. So, okay. All right. So now here's where, so your water definitely could use a little bit of work. Maybe like what I did, where I went over it and then like dropped some paint into it. I think that would probably help you get like to where the lines are a little bit more haphazard, like a little more serendipitous. But to be honest, I don't know if the ones on mine really look that great. So I think this was just a harder thing to do. I've done an acrylic watercolor before, where like it had similar ripples like from the sun in the water, and it's just very difficult to do. It's very difficult to get it to look right. So whenever you see an artist who does water that looks convincing, praise them, because it's hard. It's very difficult. Water is the hardest thing, I think. Okay, now this is what I really like about your work. So these stalks are very thick. Now I made like a big deal about mine being thin, but the thing is I'm seeing value now in how thick yours are, because I think like it makes it look more, I'm trying to think of the word. It's one of the styles of art, and I can't remember which era it was, but I want to say it's post-impressionist, but let's see, that was we'll talk about it. I'll bring this up next week, and we'll talk about it next week after I can go look up some names. For some reason the names are just going right over my head, but yes, these thick lines, the fact that you decided to do some that were kind of wavy like that, and then you did these nice big thick leaves at the top, but also you have not come in and added the leaves. I would not. I mean, maybe you could add like one or two, but I wouldn't go too crazy with adding the leaves, or even adding, maybe you could add the little guys down in the, like the little reflective guys. Those might actually balance it a little bit, like if you just did one or two here or there. But because you've got stuff going on here, so you need something going on this side. Otherwise, it looks a little off balance. But other than that, I wouldn't even touch this. I don't know if I'd even add the leaves. I really like it the way that it is, because you did your thicker lines. So I think that it makes the style look different. I wish I could remember the name of the artist, and I'm almost positive it's post-impressionist. So if you look up post-impressionist artists, it's probably going to be one of the first guys that comes up, because he was one of the bigger artists at that time. Now, one of the things that post-impressionists did is they used kind of off colors. So of course you don't have that here. Your colors are actually very on, like, you know, these are very, very realistic colors. But if you did do this again and you decided to go with slightly off colors, like maybe making your water a little bit more green and making your yellow a little bit more mustard, you know, just making this appear more rusty. Like if you just made your colors just slightly off, you could totally have a post-impressionistic style, because your style of painting is very much like that. So I really like this a lot. And I saw that you wrote in chat that you thought I was lying. And I hope you weren't being serious about that, because that would be kind of offensive, because I don't lie generally, but I especially don't lie about my students' work. So I think probably you were joking, but I'm not. I really do think this is good. Okay, let's look at fluxes. This is really good. It's actually better than the one you did the other day. I'm going to just really quickly scroll up and just show the one you did the other day. We have some different artwork shared here. So this is the one that you did, and it's good. I like the texture that you've got in here. So you've got like this really interesting bark here. But look at the difference that practice makes, right? You know, because you've been drawing a lot of trees, and I know you've gone out and done tree studies. So this one I know is obviously different. You were going for a different style, I can tell that. But your bark here, now that you're using like these more straight lines, it actually looks a lot more realistic. That might not have necessarily been what you were going for in the first one. Maybe you weren't trying to be realistic. I don't know. Because I know that sometimes you go for kind of like a surreal type look to some of your artwork. But this looks phenomenal. And these branches really look a lot more realistic and more natural, you know. So I definitely think that... Oh, you mix it up. Okay, so you are trying to do different things, and that's cool. But I'm going to tell you, like, this one is definitely a lot more realistic looking. I mean, I like the other one. Let's look at it again. I like this other one. But I just think that it looks less realistic. And maybe that's, like I said, maybe that's what you were going for, because you do have that style. But yeah. Wow. This tree. You just need more paper, though. Your tree like wants to go so many places. Like you need bigger paper. Like going completely off the page. All right, let's go ahead and come back. Let's hope it works this time. I'm back. It didn't break on me this time. Excellent. Okay, so Crixano said, sorry, I just can't fathom how you can like my painting when you don't like it. Well, I mean, again, you're not giving me credit for being a different person, you know, and having different opinions. So like that kind of goes back to that whole, like the whole self-indulgent thing of like, when you value your opinions over other people's, you're not really helping other people. So I guess my point is that you're already doing it. You're already taking your opinion as more valuable to you than mine, which is fine. I think you should. I think that that's important. But since you're already doing it, why not do it in a positive way? You know, why does it have to be negative? Why does negative equal you putting other people first, right? Why does, like, somehow in your mind, growing up or recently, I don't know, but at some point you have made putting other people first equal to being negative about yourself. And that's just, they're not mutually exclusive. You can be positive about yourself and still put other people first, right? I mean, just because you're being positive about yourself doesn't mean you're putting yourself first. I mean, in a way you are, but like I said, you're kind of already putting yourself first. So, because you think about yourself more than you're thinking about other people, right? You're thinking about how terrible you are. You're thinking about what a screw up you are, all those things. But while you're doing that, that means you're not thinking about other people. So again, I feel like we haven't convinced you yet, but I feel like Flux and I are going to work on you, and we're going to get you to see that being positive is really worth it. So we'll see. I think this was a really great chat. I thank everybody for joining me today, and thank you, Flux and Crixano, for uploading your artwork so that we can take a look at it. I love looking at other people's artwork. And like I said, next week I will be still doing my crochet stream on Tuesday, but I'm not going to have my normal drawing stream on Friday. At the same time, I'm going to be babysitting my sister's foster kittens. She's got 3 kittens, and I'm going to be babysitting them. So I'm going to do a kitten stream, and we're going to talk about art history and maybe a little philosophy of art. And it's going to be a discussion, and I'm going to see if I can even try to get it some voice chat on there where people can join into my live discussion and be live with me. So we'll see if we can get that worked out. Thank you for joining me today. And hold on, Crixano says, hold on a sec. Oh, you said like you care about edges. That's funny. Yep. You just push on right past those edges. Okay. So Crixano, I do need to go ahead and end the stream, but you and I can talk about this in Just Chatting if you want to continue there. And Flux, of course, you're welcome to join us. Anybody's welcome to join us. But yeah, we'll continue talking about the positive negative thing in chat. Okay. Thank you for joining me today, and everybody have a fantastic weekend, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week.